The HTC One M7 was a truly groundbreaking smartphone, thanks in part to its impeccable build quality, unique design, and revolutionary stereo boom sound speaker setup. But that build quality was what really made the M7 great. Up until that point, phones were predominantly plastic and never really felt like a piece of art, more a toy. The One M7 changed that. So, the HTC One M8 had some pretty big boots to fill. Did it do that? Of course it did. Being the successor to the Android icon, the 2014 released M8 naturally improved on already established features. The phone got rounder, sleeker, easier to hold, and received a healthy spec bump to go with it. It launched to the same critical acclaim that its predecessor received, and HTC was firmly in its prime at this point. The little intricate details were what made this phone so legendary. The introduction of double tap to wake, the notification LED built right into the speaker grille, the subtly inward curving side rails. This was an era that gave us stellar build quality, the sort of thing we see today. I remember I really wanted one of these things back in 2014, and I eagerly awaited Linus Sebastian's review of it just to see what it was really made of. In 2016, I got to check one out. My friend Hayden lent me his gorgeous blue Carrier exclusive copy, and I had a blast reviewing it. It was astonishing to me that at this point a phone could really feel and look this good, and I reluctantly had to give it back a few weeks later, where he sold it. That video netted me 50,000 views in 6 months, which at the time was massive for me, as I was just really starting my technology analysis journey. Even now in 2020, 4 years later, 50,000 views, if one of my videos hits that kind of number, I'm buzzing off of it. But in 2020, you can still appreciate how well made the One M8 is. Holding it in one hand and the iPhone 11 in the other hand, I'd say the One M8 wins hands down, even despite its age. It feels weighty and tight while simultaneously looking like a piece of art. Now, of course, we've moved on to glass sandwich designs, so it's not quite apples to apples, but is it me, or is an all aluminium phone refreshing these days? Other ways in which smartphones have evolved include the display and the camera, but let's start with the latter. 4 megapixels would be laughed at for a selfie camera these days, let alone a main rear shooter. And of course, the image quality is several orders of magnitude better these days than it was back then. Saying that though, the same basic tech is being used today. That second rear camera, the depth sensor, is often found in a lot of 2020 releases. That kind of depth mapping was introduced by HTC to create things like portrait mode. It really does show how times have changed, and I guess this is even more so emphasised by the inclusion of a headphone port. If you told someone in 2014 that we were going to get rid of the headphone port, and no, there wasn't a wired replacement for it, they would probably laugh you out of the room, but obviously that's what's happened, that's what's changed, and that's the new reality. Though it's not all doom and gloom, because this thing does have micro USB, and it reminds me every day how much better USB-C is, even in terms of just a connector, not even the speed or power increases that other USB standards can bring in. Though weirdly enough for me, the display holds up really well in my eyes. The 5-inch 1080p LCD might not be super smooth or super vibrant, but it's more than sharp enough, and the quality of the image really isn't bad at all. You spec fanboys can shout 120Hz, Quad HD or OLED all you want, but using this panel really just indicates to me how useless all of those features are on a mobile display. Don't get me wrong, on a bigger display like for a laptop screen or a computer desktop monitor or even a TV, those changes make a bigger difference to me, but on a mobile, I'm not so sold. Anyway, I digress. In 2020, usability is, well, it's about what you'd expect for a 6-year-old phone. The latest officially available software is Android 6.0, which is several versions out of date, so you're not going to get even remotely modern features. A lot of the software doesn't even support an OS version that old, so you'll be a bit stuck there with a few different apps. Performance is pretty poor, to be completely honest, and gaming wouldn't really bother. There is of course always the option to root and ROM the phone. There's quite the community behind it, and I'd imagine you could get some far more up-to-date versions of the software on this thing. It's not something I'd personally go out and do, similar to the way I wouldn't go out and get one of these and use it as your daily smartphone, but the option is there if you really want to have a tinker. These are about £50 online, and that's not a bad price to pay for something that has so much value to it, kind of more nostalgic and more sentimental value to it. I personally would enjoy kind of playing around with this, and I have been playing around with this, but it's not something I recommend that you go and use as a daily driver. The much better used options are the LG V40, the OnePlus 6 and the Pocophone F1. But here's a thought. There's a lot of talk recently with the iPhone SE 2020's release of OEMs going and getting an older design and sticking some new internals in it and re-releasing it at a fair price, about £400, just to see if anyone would buy it. And I reckon if you stuck even a Snapdragon 845 in this HTC One M8 and you left everything else pretty much the same, maybe give it a slightly bigger battery and USB-C, you could sell it for £500 and people would just buy it up. Like, there would be quite a few buys. I personally would go and stick a pre-order as soon as it got announced on a website. But let me know in the comments, because I'm rather intrigued by that. And in this last section, I want to take a minute to thank HTC for being bold and brave and making something that would change the course of smartphone manufacturing forever. I want to thank it for making one of the best smartphones of all time, and one that would change the course of my life personally. Without me reviewing the phone back in 2016, who knows if I'd still be doing what I do today. HTC had the balls to sacrifice its sales, its financials, and its image to truly innovate in the smartphone market. It made a massive mark on the manufacturing landscape, and I hope that in my lifetime, I get to witness the revival of the legendary company, and I hope to see it soar. And that's it for this video. Thank you all so much for watching. I want to thank Noah Herman for sourcing this unit for me. Let me know in the comments if you have a One M8 or if you want to revisit an M8, or did you have one back in the day. It'd be really interesting to hear your thoughts on that. And whilst you're down there, might as well hit like or dislike depending on where you sit on the fence on that kind of thing for this video, and hit subscribe if you're new around here to never miss a video like this one. I want to give a massive shout out to my patrons for being awesome and supporting me continually. Thank you so much, and thanks for being patient. I've been Right Thomas, and I'll see you later. Peace.